Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. And today it is an analysis episode, but of course, this is going to be just a one-parter because we're going to be talking about Don't Nod's The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. Now, as some of you, I'm sure you will know, this game was almost like a teaser, wasn't it, before Life is Strange 2, which obviously we'll get to when we speak about the ending of it. And I just wanted to say, Matt, I'll throw it over to you to see your thoughts in a sec, but I think that's fantastic. You don't really get that nowadays, do you? A game to almost get you hyped up for another game. It feels very unlike something that we would get today. And the fact that it's a decent length as well, isn't it? It's not like demo length of half an hour. This is like a 3-hour experience, isn't it?
Yeah, and on top of that, the fact that it was free. You didn't have to pay for it. They was like, yeah, here's a little demo for you guys. It's like maybe 2 hours long or something. I can't remember the length. It was certainly wasn't like a long thing, but just the fact that it was to drum up hype for Life is Strange 2. And the fact as well, it has its own identity. It stands alone from every other Life is Strange game, to be honest. Because technically it doesn't even like hold, it's in the Life is Strange universe, but the game doesn't say Life is Strange anywhere in the title. The game is called The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. And I just found the whole concept of it all just really fascinating and interesting. And yeah, no, I just felt, Don't Nod, well done for doing this. It's such a cool experience.
Yeah, because I feel like it even hits Life is Strange beats as well, but it does it in a clever way, because obviously we're going to go into sort of like spoilers and sort of like talk about the plot and story and stuff, but it's about a father and son. Clearly there's some like domestic stuff going on in the background, but it is really centered almost on the death of his mother, right? And it's almost like they've used the power that you would get in Life is Strange that at the time we would have seen as rewind time. But it's not like he physically has the power, is it? It's that he's using his own imagination to deal with the grief of the loss of his mother, which I think is something very childlike. It's something that you could, see happening. It's very plausible. And I've got to say, at certain points in this game, it was actually incredibly touching as well, how like you can start to slowly knit the things together, and it certainly feels like a very Don't Nod game. They certainly like to stick to certain themes when it comes to the loss of a parent or even absent parents. I mean, we've literally just played Lost Records, and you don't really see the parents in that game either, do you? Though we know they are alive. But yeah, just like, what are your thoughts on like the broad themes, mate, and like how well that they like executed them?
I thought they were fantastic. So like the fact that, as you mentioned, we don't have an outright power, but the whole kind of theme and premise of this game is to do with a child's imagination, right? And it's just like loads of little clever things, like even when you're going against, like, is it the water cooler or like the boiler? And then like the child imagines it as this final boss, this super villain. I just really like that. And I think, I myself was quite an imaginative child, so it almost struck a chord with me a little bit. And I mean, we will get into it later. Like, obviously, we've played Life is Strange 2, and we have our, reservations about it. We've stated that very clearly on the channel. But I remember actually really enjoying the theme of Captain Spirit. And I remember sort of saying to myself, I almost wish that we had this kind of theme. Whether it could have held up for 5 episodes, I don't know. But I would have liked a world where we had Chris as the Life is Strange 2 protagonist almost. But yeah, as you mentioned, like they stick to their themes. It was a really fascinating theme to explore. But yeah, there's elements of darkness in there as well. And I just felt it all meshed together really brilliantly.
Even like with like the using of the power, he says in like sort of quotation marks, you do sort of like the boring things, don't you? Like chores around the house, like whether you're doing the washing up, whether you're getting like you're heating some food up for the dad, or you're generally tidying and stuff like that. You get the choice, don't you? Like, do you just want to do it, or do you want to do it in this really cool, exciting way, like to almost like deal with the mundanity, which even as adults, you know, we can all relate to, of everyday life. But he's obviously got that extra weight as well with like the death of his mum, and clearly moving over to like the father figure, mate. Not a very good father at all. In fact, that would be quite an understatement. He's just a piss poor dad, isn't he?
Very, but I get like losing your other half must take its toll on the family. We've seen what it does to Chloe and Joyce in these games. It's obviously quite a horrible thing to happen. But yeah, like the way he's like, "Oh, wake me up after I've had my nap," and then you wake him up and he's like, "Why did you wake me up?" And he's like really angry and abusive to his kid. So yeah, clearly not a nice man. And it's really interesting, and it's what I'm going to put a pin on the sport, and we'll explore it more when we talk about Life is Strange 2. But we obviously will revisit these characters in Life is Strange 2. And in Life is Strange 2, from memory, I could be remembering this wrong, but I remember sort of saying that you only sort of see the nicey nice side of the father figure. And it's super interesting that Captain Spirit paints him in this like really horrible light. You almost see the true self of him. And it's super interesting that in Life is Strange 2, he's like this really helpful figure. He'll take you, Chris, and the other boys to like pick up a Christmas tree or whatever from memory. And I'm just like, oh wow, like I know who this guy really is and what he's capable of and what he's like. But they're not going to touch on it in Life is Strange 2. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I'm unsure. But certainly really interesting.
You know what? I mean, because as you well know, mate, I've only played Life is Strange 2 once. I completely forgot that it was him that takes you to go get the Christmas tree. So going back and playing that, that's going to be an insight. And you know what? Like, even for those that are listening, you know, drop us a comment for who maybe played this. They played the Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. They saw what like their domestic life was like. Then you encounter them in Life is Strange 2, like what that must have been like to play, like how to almost, you know, what you were viewing that father figure as. So yeah, obviously do let us know in the comments below. But there's lots of things, isn't there? I mean, even when you're like going through the house, I'm pretty sure you can see that maybe, I mean, I might be wrong in saying this, maybe he was cheating on the mother. At the very least, he's certainly seen someone else, because I think you find like a little note that sort of suggests that the woman really misses him and such. He's clearly got a drinking problem. And even at very early doors in the game, you can see that he's obviously grabbed. Is it Chris, the boy's name?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he's Chris. He's grabbed Chris's arm, and he's got bruises and such. So like, you can tell that he's clearly a very, very troubled man, and that makes it all the more powerful and telling on Chris, because he's got to live in this almost fantasy bubble just to get through life, you know, which I think, you know, was actually, considering it's only a 3-hour thing, was explored very, very well by Don't Nod, and a really good bit of storytelling.
Very much so. It almost screams shades of Detroit Become Human with Todd and Alice, right? Like how Alice has to escape into her fantasies and her drawings and stuff, because there's this clearly like abusive father figure. So it's just interesting how both games touch on similar themes, but with this, with that game, Todd's just this really horrible figure. I mean, later on, there's a bonus scene where you could potentially see him in a good light, but with this one, yeah, like, you'll have this guy who's clearly a day drinker, you know, clearly, like, there is a bit of, like, potential domestic abuse, whether it was, like, accidental, but he clearly grabs his kid or whatever. And then obviously that strikes a concern in neighbouring figures, because you'll get Sean and Daniel's grandma pop over and kind of check in on you, which I felt was really interesting. And it's really cool how like there are like a load of Easter eggs, and it tees up Life is Strange 2 really well. But yeah, really interesting. And they wrote it so well by doing like a really whimsical, fun game, but shrouded in like really dark, heavy themes in there.
I wanted to ask you, by the way, like about that, you know, the grandma scene turning up. Do you remember how you played it? Like, did you try and almost like, you know, get her away from the door without sort of dobbing your dad in, or was you more up front?
I actually can't remember. I don't think it has too much of a difference. I feel like the second time I played it, I dobbed him in a little bit, and he went really abusive. I think the branching's not all there, and I think that he'll lash at you anyway and says those unspeakable things about how you remind him of, you know, his ex-wife, or, you know, like your mum or whatever, and then he like yells at you. But yeah, like so I think I've played it both ways and not much happens.
All right, because I think for me, I was almost trying to like play it down, because this is the one thing I did think, okay, that's a little bit of BS, is the bit where she comes and she goes, oh, I can hear all this noise. And I'm thinking, what, was you like stood right next to the lodge or something, like before you knocked on the door? Because like there's noise that can be made, isn't there? But like you can then have like dialogue things where like you're saying, oh, you know, we're putting up the tree, or oh, we fell over and stuff like that. But you know, we're not really in this for like the choices at this particular point because it is a demo, so it does always end up the same way. But yeah, safe to say that as much as I was trying to like play stuff down, she certainly didn't believe me, and she was very quick to say, all right, okay, I'm gonna go away and, you know, go get someone because something's clearly not right here.
No, I completely agree, lad. Like, it's really interesting how there's different ways you can play it, but ultimately it leads to the same thing. Lad, did you want to talk about like the missions and stuff?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, did you have a particular favourite one?
Did I have a particular favourite one? Ooh, I'll tell you what, I did like the one. I think I'm actually going to pick the one that I found the most powerful, and I think it's the one where you've got to go to like Mantroid's planet. You know, when like you get in the car and then you black out, and then you're in like this world, and you've got like this deep voice talking to you. And I'm pretty sure you can fail this bit, you know, but I didn't fail it, so I got like the hard hitting ending. But you like walk towards this like lit up area, and you can see these road signs, and it doesn't spell it out for you. This is what I thought was so clever about it. It doesn't spell it out for you, but you can see like the tire marks, so it's obviously referring to like the car crash, you know, with his mum. And you can see where he's picked up the name Mantroid from, because it's like at the corner of like the signs you can just see like Mant, and then I think you can see Troid, like Royd or something like that, and that's where he's come up with the name for this villain that he's got to defeat. And that's almost the beautiful way in which that he's coming to terms, or like trying to process and deal with the loss of his mum by like defeating some sort of enemy of his kind that was rooted in the sign, you know, of the, you know, the place where she had her car crash. So definitely not certainly the most fun, but it's the one that stands out for what the, you know, the story they were trying to tell.
Yeah, I really like that one as well. I also like the boiler one that I mentioned, just how like it uses that child imagination and just amplifies it up. I also really just like the kind of the style of like the missions, how you have the hand drawing, and it reminded me a lot of Life is Strange Before the Storm's Farewell episode with the little pirate mission. It's Max and Chloe, how like they hand drew their map and stuff, and then you had the same thing with a map at one point where you had to rotate it. So it just felt very reminiscent of that, and I very much enjoyed that episode, as hard hitting as it was as well. So yeah, there was a lot of good ones in there. There were also a few missions which were a little mundane, and a few that I struggled with. Funnily enough, the first time I ever played it, the one mission I struggled with was the little mini game on the phone. Not necessarily the game itself, but the password to get in. Again, we spoke about. Yeah, we speak about these games, how like you almost want a logical puzzle, like you want to find, like, you know, at one point there's that thing where you go into like the shed outside and you can find, you know, the date of like a birthday or a particular event, and then you can get into like the locker code. And I like solving stuff like that. With this one, I struggled and I couldn't find it, so I had to look up the code online, which I hate doing. I hate caving to that, but I'm glad I did. It would have saved me hours of looking around, because you just have to write out hot dog man in you know, dial tech. And I was like, oh, is that it? Like, that's a bit weak. But other than that, the mini game is pretty fun. Like, it's cool. It's just like a game within a game, a little arcade thing for you to kind of like switch off and like, you know, try and beat the high score of 500, and then, you know, to beat your mates' scores online and stuff. I really enjoyed it. It's a better version of Flappy Bird. Nice little bit of fun thing that they added in.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think back. Oh, yeah, Flappy Bird. That was like the days at school, wasn't it? So like this was probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah. I mean, this come out probably when we was like roughly at uni, mate, or just finishing uni. So a lot of time would have passed by then. But yeah, you are right. It does actually. It's very similar to Flappy Bird. But I had the exact same issue as well. I was wandering around the place because I'm pretty sure I thought that 2005 would have been a code because I think that's like when you go into his room and you see like, because obviously he's like a successful sportsman, isn't he, the dad, and he's like got all these trophies and things, and like you think 2005 would be the pin, and when that didn't work, I was like, Jesus, what the hell could it be? So, like you, I ended up caving in, and there is zero chance that I would have got the hot dog man thing at all. But like you say, the game was really fun.
Yeah, funny enough, when I played it again, because I streamed it recently, I remembered the code. I remembered that's what I had to do. But the missions I struggled with. One, I couldn't find a toy for the life of me, and it was just on the living room floor, and I was like so embarrassed that I missed that. I was like, oh, really? But funny enough, I smashed it my first attempt, but I just couldn't do the crawling through the little tunnel to like find the secret treasure. I don't know why. Like Lola had to help me out in the stream. Like it's like left, right, right or something. It's all to do with the map, and for some reason, teen Liam smashed that, but adult Liam could not solve it. And like, I don't know if it was poorly designed or if I just had a lapse in concentration. I'm unsure. But yeah, like I quite like that these missions. Some of them are just really simple to do, but some had a little bit of a challenge to them. And I'm interested to know in the comments, guys, if there's one particular mission which you like that stumped you as well.
Yeah, because you know what? I had the exact same thing. I've only played it once, but in order to like rotate the paper onto the map, I found that easy enough. But then obviously when you go into it and you got to go left or right, and I was thinking, how are you supposed to know? Similar to what I said with like the one with spaceship and like the road sign and stuff. Very powerful because like the treasure, you know, you're sat there thinking, oh, what could the treasure be? You know, you almost think like a kid, is it going to be gold? Is it going to be... No, it's something actually worth a hell of a lot more. Like it's something more sentimental. It's like a box, isn't it? And it's all to do like memories, and like, and again, it sort of ties into like the mum. So yeah, it's, you know, coming back to the point you said at the top, mate, I think it would have been really, really good, even if it was like a mini series to explore this character and this particular story with like Chris and like the sort of imaginary powers that he's got.
For sure. And like, obviously, as I mentioned at the top, Life is Strange 2 is a game that we've slated on this channel, and you fans have kind of said to us, oh, it actually means a lot to me. So I've kind of taken the stance like, okay, I will replay Life is Strange 2, and I'm going to try and keep an open mind. I remember like the points, you know, and I'm not going to go too into detail, but I just remember like at times it just slowed down way too much to drum home like the political messages and stuff, to the point like I felt sometimes it stopped being a game. But do you reckon you would have potentially preferred playing as Chris in Life is Strange 2 over Daniel and Sean?
I think so. I mean, I have to say that because as of now, Life is Strange 2 is probably rock bottom, if not second from bottom, in terms of like the series so far that I've played. And yeah, it was short and sweet. This was The Adventures of Captain Spirit. It almost left you wanting more, and you sort of think, how could they have expanded that? Whereas with Sean and Daniel, I don't know, something just didn't resonate with me. You know, I've said it before, you didn't really have the power. Whereas I like the idea of this, how it's imaginary and you get to, there's a sort of like a deeper, more personal message to that, which I thought was clever. So I think at the minute, you know, obviously going back into Life is Strange 2, I'd have to say yes, I think I'd have rather have stuck with this character mode.
Because it definitely was my sentiment at the time. And like, we'll skip to the ending where like when you storm out, you're crying and you go up the treehouse, and then there's that ending where you kind of like fall off, but then you're captured by something. At this point, had you already seen and knew about Life is Strange 2 to knew exactly what happened, or were you in the dark then and were you questioning what just happened to me?
I remember because obviously I'd already played Life is Strange 2
Oh
before,
yeah.
before obviously playing this, right? So I knew that it was going to tie in somehow. I don't think I knew that we was going to see Sean and Daniel, but from what I do remember of Life is Strange 2, I do vaguely remember exploring the yard and then seeing the tree and the tree house. So I was thinking, okay, right, that it could be that we see the characters, or like there's going to be some sort of like little tie-in somewhere along the line. But do you know what I mean? I almost wish that I had played Captain Spirit first, and then because then you can get excited, can't you? You can then speculate, oh, are those the characters that we're playing as in Life is Strange 2 and so forth. But yeah, so I played it out of order, mate.
Yeah, no, because it was just super interesting when that ending happened. Because obviously Chris's landing is saved by this like force field, and you're almost wondering, oh, was it his like child's imagination? Maybe like the fall wasn't actually that bad, but he's imagined that he's been saved. And then it obviously pans to Sean and Daniel. And the disappointing thing for me though is that because like I was in all the communities, I looked at like, sort of forums and stuff. It very much got like hacked that people found out that the protagonists were going to be called Daniel and Sean, and people found files for their names. And then,
Right.
like, when Captain Spirit happened, it has that shot where, like, the two boys over the fence, like, smile at the kid. And then it's like, oh, those are probably going to be the protagonists. Fans kind of put two and two together, like, okay, so that's who we're going to be playing as. Might have been more powerful if I stayed away from that. So I very much went into Life is Strange 2 knowing, okay, we're going to get some kind of force field power from one of the kids, and those are going to be our protagonists. So it was very much spoiled in that sense. Would have been nicer to have not had that, but still, though, it was, really cool to see anyway. So yeah, like Captain Spirit in summary, just for the fact that you don't pay a penny for it, and it's a really nice experience, a really, really unique theme in a game that stands on its own 2 feet. I was thoroughly impressed. You can't really complain.
Okay, guys, so there we go. That was our little rundown of the awesome adventures of Captain Spirit. Let us know what your thoughts on this was. Of course, there's not a lot of choices to really talk about in this one, but let us know what you think. And obviously we can look forward to more Life is Strange content in the future. We will be doing Life is Strange 2, so look out for that. And until then, we will see you in the next one.
See you soon, guys.